My name is Jake, 35M, and my wife, Emily, 32F, has just shattered my world in a way I never thought possible. I always believed we had a strong marriage, maybe not perfect but solid. We met in our mid-20s, and from the start, she had this fiery, unpredictable personality that kept things exciting. She was charming, witty, and knew how to light up a room. But that fire? Lately, it had turned cold. Over the past few months, Emily had been acting different. She became distant, glued to her phone more than usual, and started dressing up just to run errands. At first, I chalked it up to stress. She had just started a new job in marketing, and I figured maybe she was just trying to impress her new colleagues. But then the lies started. Little ones at first, saying she was stuck in traffic when she came home late, claiming she was meeting a friend but never mentioning who. I wanted to trust her, but something in my gut told me something was off. Then came the weirdest moment. She suddenly started talking about her ex, Ryan, 36M, in casual conversation. Ryan was the guy she dated before me, the one she swore was ancient history and a complete mistake. She laughed about how he had gained weight and was probably still a loser, but why bring him up at all? I should have known then, but I didn't. That's where this nightmare began. I wanted to ignore the warning signs. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was reading too much into things. That's what I told myself until the lies got bigger. Emily started leaving the house more often, always with some excuse. Oh, I'm meeting Sarah for lunch. I need to pick up a few things at the mall. There's this new yoga class I want to try. Thing is, Sarah had just moved out of state and Emily never liked yoga. One evening, she came home way too late. Her hair slightly messy, her lipstick smudged. I asked how her girls' night was, and she gave me the strangest look before laughing. Oh, it was fun. Nothing crazy, she said, avoiding eye contact. Then she went straight to the shower. That's when I decided I needed to know the truth. I started paying attention, noticing patterns. She always left around the same time. She always seemed to get texts that made her smile before leaving. And when she came back, she barely spoke to me. So one Saturday, when she said she was just going to the mall for some quick shopping, I followed her. And that's how I found out. I followed Emily to the mall, keeping my distance. My heart pounded in my chest, and I kept telling myself I was overreacting. Maybe she really was just shopping. Maybe I was being the jealous, insecure husband. But then I saw him, Ryan. He was standing near the entrance of a department store, casually dressed, looking around like he was waiting for someone. A few minutes later, Emily walked up to him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. A way she used to smile at me. My stomach dropped. I stayed hidden behind a row of potted plants, watching as she hugged him. It wasn't a friendly hug. It was long, slow, familiar. Her hand lingered on his chest as they pulled apart, and then she took his hand, leading him inside the store. Couldn't believe it. My wife, my Emily, was holding hands with her ex in public like it was nothing. I should have walked away. I should have gone home and figured out how to handle this rationally. But my feet moved on their own. I followed them inside, and that's when things got worse. They weren't just meeting up. They were sneaking off to a dressing room together. I stood there, frozen, as I watched Emily and Ryan slip into the dressing room together. My mind was racing, my hands clenched into fists. There was no more room for doubt, no more excuses. My wife was cheating on me, right in front of my eyes. I forced myself to move, my legs shaky but determined. I walked straight to the dressing room attendant, a young woman who barely looked up from her phone. My wife just went in there, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. With another man. That got her attention. Her eyes widened as she processed what I was saying. Are you sure? She asked hesitantly. I'm sure. She hesitated, then sighed. I mean, we're not really supposed to. I didn't wait for her to finish. I walked past her and pushed open the curtain. And there they were. Emily was pressed against the wall, her hands tangled in Ryan's shirt. His arms were around her waist, their faces close, too close. For a split second, time stopped. Then Emily gasped, shoving Ryan away as her eyes met mine. "Jake!" she shrieked, her face turning pale. "What the hell are you doing here?" What was I doing here? I let out a bitter laugh. "That's my question, Emily." Ryan took a step back, looking guilty but not nearly guilty enough. "Dude, this isn't what it looks like." I turned to him, my anger boiling over. "Really? Because it looks exactly like my wife is cheating on me with her ex in a freaking mall dressing room." Emily's expression hardened. "Oh my God, Jake. You're being so dramatic. It's not like we were actually doing anything." I stared at her, disbelief mixing with rage. "Are you serious right now?" she scoffed, crossing her arms. "We were just talking." Ryan, realizing she was trying to lie her way out of this, stayed silent. I took a deep breath, trying to control the shaking in my hands. Talking? In a locked dressing room? While pressed up against each other? Emily rolled her eyes. "You always overreact. I can't believe you followed me here. That's so controlling, Jake." Controlling. She was trying to turn this on me. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I stood there, staring at Emily as she tried to twist the situation, like I was the one in the wrong. "Controlling," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "Emily, I just caught you sneaking into a dressing room with your ex, and I'm the problem?" She huffed, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Yes, Jake. You followed me. That's insane behavior." I turned to Ryan, who was shifting uncomfortably, eyes darting toward the exit like he was planning his escape. "And you? You don't have anything to say," he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Look, man, I didn't know she was married. She told me." Emily cut him off so fast it was almost comical. "Shut up, Ryan," she snapped, her eyes wide with panic. That was all I needed to hear. "You told him you weren't married?" My voice was eerily calm now. Emily froze. No. That's not what he meant. He's just confused." She turned to Ryan, her expression shifting into something desperate. "Right, Ryan?" Ryan wasn't stupid. He looked at me, then back at Emily, and then took a step away from her. Yeah, I think I should go." And with that, he bolted. Emily let out a frustrated noise and stomped her foot. "Are you happy now, Jake? You ruined everything." I felt a sharp pang in my chest. "Ruined everything?" I swallowed hard, my voice low. "What exactly did I ruin, Emily?" She groaned, throwing her hands in the air. "I was just catching up with an old friend. You barged in here and embarrassed me." I stared at her, completely stunned. "You cheated on me." She rolled her eyes, like I was being ridiculous. "Oh my God. It wasn't even a big deal. It's not like we slept together." I let out a breath, shaking my head. "You don't get it, do you?" Emily crossed her arms. "No, you don't get it. If you weren't so insecure, none of this would have happened." And just like that, I knew. There was no saving this. I stood there in the middle of the dressing room, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. Emily's words were still ringing in my ears. If you weren't so insecure, none of this would have happened. I felt something inside me shift. For years, I had made excuses for her behavior. I had let things slide, let her attitude and lies roll off my back because I loved her. I wanted to believe in the woman I married. But that woman, she wasn't standing in front of me. The Emily I saw now wasn't even sorry. I took a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "You know what?" I said, my voice steady. "I'm done." Her face twitched. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm not going to stand here and let you gaslight me." I shook my head, letting out a dry laugh. "You cheated, Emily. That's the truth. And instead of owning up to it, you're blaming me?" She scoffed, folding her arms. "Oh, please. I didn't cheat. You're just overreacting because you're insecure." There it was again. I let out a slow exhale. "You know what's funny?" I said, looking her dead in the eye. "I was ready to forgive you. If you had just told me the truth, if you had even pretended to be sorry, I might have tried to fix this." Emily's face faltered for a second, but then she lifted her chin, her expression hardening. "Well, maybe I'm the one who doesn't want to fix it. That hit me harder than I expected. I nodded slowly, feeling the last thread of attachment snap. All right then. Then I turned around and walked away. Emily didn't follow me. She didn't even call my name. And that's when I knew it was really over. I walked out of that dressing room feeling numb. The mall was packed with people, but everything around me felt distant, like I was moving through a fog. My wife, ex-wife soon enough, had just made it clear she didn't love me, didn't respect me, and didn't even care that she got caught. I reached my car, sat behind the wheel, and just stared. I should have felt angry. I should have wanted to scream, punch something, do something. But all I felt was exhaustion. I replayed the last few months in my head. The distance, the excuses, the constant gaslighting. She had probably been seeing Ryan for longer than I realized. I had ignored the signs, convinced myself that I was imagining things because I wanted to believe my wife wouldn't do this to me. I had been a fool. After a few minutes, my phone buzzed. Emily. I didn't answer. A minute later, another message came through. Emily, Jake, we need to talk. I scoffed. Now she wanted to talk? Then another message. Emily, I'm coming home later. Don't do anything stupid. I stared at the words. Don't do anything stupid? Like what? Confront her again? Cry? Beg her to stay? She really thought I was that pathetic. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. No, not this time. I put my car in drive and headed straight home. I had a plan. And by the time she got back, she wouldn't find me waiting. I got home and immediately started packing. Not my things, hers. I grabbed a couple of suitcases from the closet and started throwing in her clothes, her shoes, her endless collection of overpriced skincare products. Every piece of her life that was tangled up in mine, I shoved into those bags. I wasn't waiting for her to come home and explain. I wasn't giving her the chance to spin another lie. She made her choice. Now I was making mine. Halfway through, I stopped and looked around our bedroom. Our wedding photo sat on the nightstand. Emily was smiling in it, holding my hand like she actually cared. I picked it up, stared at it for a long moment, then placed it face down. I had loved this woman. I had built a life with her. And for what? So she could sneak off with her ex in a mall dressing room? So she could gaslight me and make me feel like the bad guy? No, not anymore. I finished packing and dragged her bags to the door. Then I pulled out my phone and sent her a single message. Me, your stuff is packed. Don't bother coming inside. Stay with Ryan or whoever else you've been lying to me about. I didn't wait for a reply. I just sat on the couch and stared at the door, waiting. And when she finally walked in, her reaction was not what I expected. Emily walked in like nothing had happened, tossing her purse on the counter like she hadn't just been caught making out with her ex a few hours ago. Then she saw the suitcases. Her face twisted in confusion. What's this? I leaned back against the couch, arms crossed. Your stuff. You're leaving. She blinked, like I had just spoken a foreign language. Wait, what? I stood up, my voice calm but firm. You heard me, Emily. We're done. I'm not doing this anymore. She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. Oh, come on, Jake. You're seriously throwing a tantrum over this? I told you. It wasn't a big deal. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. She sighed dramatically. Fine. You're mad. I get it. But let's be real. You're not actually kicking me out. She crossed her arms. Where do you expect me to go? I shrugged. Ryan's place, maybe? Since you clearly enjoy his company so much. That wiped the smug look off her face. Wow, she muttered, shaking her head. I can't believe this. After everything, this is how you treat me. I let out a bitter laugh. After everything? I repeated. You mean after you cheated on me? Lied to me? Gaslit me into thinking I was crazy? She groaned, rubbing her temples. Oh my God, Jake. We didn't even sleep together. You're acting like I had some long-term affair. I tilted my head. So, if I had taken another woman into a dressing room, made out with her, and lied to your face about it, you'd be totally fine with that? Silence. Emily's jaw tightened. That's different. I scoffed. Of course it is. She stared at me for a long moment, then let out a sharp breath. Fine. If this is what you want, then fine. She grabbed her suitcases and yanked them toward the door. But before leaving, she turned back to me, her eyes cold. You're going to regret this, Jake. I met her gaze without flinching.
No, Emily.
I regret ever trusting you. And then, just like that, she was gone. I stood there in the silence, listening to the sound of my own heartbeat. It was over, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. The moment the door slammed shut behind Emily, I let out a breath I didn't even realize I was holding. She was gone. For good. I expected to feel devastated. Maybe a part of me even thought I'd break down, that I'd second-guess my decision. But as I stood there in the quiet of my own home, I felt something else entirely: relief. I had spent months, maybe even years, making excuses for her behavior, ignoring the gut feelings, brushing off the little lies, convincing myself that she loved me the way I loved her. But the truth? She had been checked out of our marriage long before I caught her with Ryan. And now I could finally breathe. Over the next few days, I changed everything. I threw away the things that reminded me of her, deleted old photos, even got rid of the bed sheets she used to love so much. It was like wiping away every trace of her. And with each thing I removed, I felt lighter. Emily tried reaching out, of course. At first, she sent a few texts, nothing apologetic, just defensive. You're making a mistake. We could have worked through this. Then came the calls, which I ignored. And then, silence. I found out later through mutual friends that she had, in fact, gone to Ryan's place. That didn't last long, though. Apparently, he wasn't as interested in a real relationship as she thought. She lost both of us in the end. Now, weeks later, I'm finally finding myself again. It's not easy, but I wake up every day knowing I made the right choice. If there's one thing I've learned from this, it's this: never ignore the signs. Never let someone make you feel crazy for seeing the truth. And never stay with someone who makes you question your own worth. I don't know what's next for me, but one thing's for sure. I'll never settle for less than I deserve again. Thank you for staying with me. This crazy journey is finally over and I'm ready for what's next. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more interesting stories. And leave a comment with what you would do in this situation. See you in the next videos.